Welcome to Chapter 10, Managing Teams. Now, this is a crucial part of any managerial position. You have to be able to create, organize, and work with teams. It is one of the key aspects of your job as a manager. Let's see what this chapter entails. Okay, so the first learning outcome is to explain why groups and teams are so key to the contributions of organizational effectiveness. If you have good teams and you have good groups, why is that so important to how effective an organization is? Identify the different types of groups and teams that help managers and organizations achieve their goals. Explain how different elements of group dynamics influence the functioning and effectiveness of groups and teams. Explain how group decision making can be improved, and describe how managers can create a high performing team. How is that done? Because if you can figure that out, you're going to be a great manager and have a wonderful organization. Let's jump in. So the first thing you need to look at is groups and teams contributions to organizational effectiveness, right? So on the left-hand side, you have groups and teams, and then you have four different areas in which they can create effectiveness in an organization. They can enhance performance, increase responsiveness to customers, increase innovation, increase motivation, and satisfaction. And all of those components lead to gaining a competitive advantage in the market. So if you invest time and energy into recruiting, retaining, and training effective teams and groups, you're going to have a competitive edge in the market and be more successful, and everyone's job is going to be a lot more secure if you can get the team aspect of the organization right. So groups, teams, and organizational effectiveness. So what is a group and what is a team? So a group, as you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, are two very excited people. They're pumped, fists are in the air, right? Two or more people who interact with each other to reach certain goals or meet certain needs. That's a group. A team, on the other hand, works intensively with each other and have a regular interaction to achieve a specific goal. All teams are groups, but not all groups are teams. So the major difference there is they work intensively with each other and have regular interaction to create or achieve a specific goal. Here are some other differences. Groups are two or more people. They interact loosely, so once in a while there's no formal structure. They have purpose to achieve organizational goals. And on the other hand, we have teams, also two or more people, but it is more of an intense, regular interaction, and they have specific visions and purposes that support the organization. Groups, teams as performance enhancers. So teams are performance enhancers. Of course, if you have synergy, and you can see the two people on the right-hand side, the high five, clearly they have some synergy. What is synergy? It's when people working in teams produce more and high quality outputs. The whole is more valuable than the individual, right? Than the sum of the parts. Responsiveness to customers requires a wide variety of skills and expertise. Of course, if you have a whole team of people looking after your customers and clients, you're going to be a lot more responsive to their needs, right? Instead of one individual trying to handle all the clients, all the customers, you might have it broken down into small tasks with each group member or team member handling one aspect of the organization. Teams and innovation. So managers can better encourage innovation and implementation of new ideas by creating diverse teams. We've talked about this in the past. If you are in HR and you want to hire a more diverse group of employees, you're going to get more creativity, right? They're going to come from with different experience, different ideas, different cultures, and really enhance that creativity in an organization. So advantages to using teams to innovate: team members uncover one another's errors, and team members build off one another's strengths and competencies, right? Oh, sorry, and compensate for their weaknesses, right? Everyone has weaknesses, but as a team, if you've ever been on a great team, you know that it's great that people have strengths that you may not have, and then you may possess some strengths that their team doesn't have, but as a whole, you are unstoppable. Types of groups in teams. So a formal group, it's established to achieve organizational goals, cross-functional or composed of members of different departments, right? You might have accounting, HR, management, whatever different kind of cross-functional departments might work together. Cross-cultural teams composed of members from different cultures and countries. Top management teams responsible for developing strategies that produce organization's competitive edge. And finally, research and development teams, and these are members who have expertise and experience in developing new products, right? This is like R&D, research and development. Department, right? Sometimes they have members in that part of the organization, and their sole job is to develop new products and new ideas. Types of groups and teams in organizations. So here's a whole slew of different groups and teams. As you can see, there's formal groups, and those are like the cross-functional ones, the top management, the departments, the task force, the virtual teams. And then you have informal groups, friends, interest groups, right? You might have large organizations in which you develop friendships and you get together for lunch, or maybe after work on Fridays, and then maybe you have interest groups. I know that there's organizations that are big enough that have yoga groups at lunch, or they might go for a morning walk before work, or maybe they're into something else. So you have both formal and informal groups. Types of groups and teams. Department or unit is a group composed of subordinates who report to the same supervisor, right? You might have the HR department, but in the HR department, you have different teams within that, the support to the head of HR. A task force or an ad hoc committee, and these are formed to accomplish specific goals or to solve specific problems in a certain period. A standing committee is a task force that is relatively permanent, and self-managed or self-directed work teams are members who are empowered to have the autonomy to complete specific work. So they're put together to complete a task, and they're kind of on their own. The boss says, come back when you are done. This is the group you're going to be working with. Creating effective self-managed teams. So there's a number of things you can do if you want to go the self-managed route, if you want to have teams that are self-managed. You want to give them enough responsibility and autonomy to be truly self-managing. Make sure that the team works sufficiently complex so that it entails a number of different steps or procedures that must be performed and result in some kind of finished product. Carefully select the members of that self-direct team, right? You don't want to put someone on a self-directed team that needs a whole bunch of guidance or hand-holding. Recognize that self-managed teams need guidance, coaching, and support, right? They will need you to check in on them once in a while. You can't just give them a task and never circle back to see if they need any help. And then finally, analyze what type of training they may need and provide it so they have the tools that are necessary to complete the task that you have assigned. Types of groups and teams. Virtual teams, oh my gosh, through COVID, everybody knows what a virtual team is now, right? Members rarely meet face-to-face, and instead they interact using email, computers, networks, and apps. And a couple tips when forming virtual teams. Include a few members who already know each other. Create an online site where team members can learn about each other and the kinds of works they're going to engage in. Set up a regular, frequent communication protocol and ensure that virtual teams projects are perceived as meaningful, interesting, and important, right? Make sure they have real work to complete. Types of groups and teams. So you have, as we saw in the earlier chart, we have these informal groups, managers or non-managerial employees formed to help achieve their own goals or needs, right? Those friendship groups and the interest groups. So a friendship group, as I said earlier, is composed of employees who enjoy one another's company and they want to socialize. Has nothing to do with work really. They just maybe met at work and hit it off. Interest groups composed of employees seeking to achieve a common goal related to their membership in the organization. Group dynamics. So this is the more complicated part. So group dynamics is how groups and teams function and how effective they will be. 5 key elements: the size of the group and the roles in the group leadership, the stages of group development, which we're going to go through shortly, group norms, and group cohesiveness. You need all 5 elements to be an effective group or team. Group size is simply the number of people. There's advantages to small groups, 2 to 9, because they interact more with each other. They may be more motivated and satisfied, find it easier to share information, and be better able to see the importance of each personal contribution, right? If we take one person out of a team of 3 or 4, it makes a big difference. And there's some advantages to larger groups, right? More resources, more knowledge, maybe less time, and division of labor. You can say if a group of 10, you can break down a task and have each group member tackle an aspect of what you're responsible for completing. Group roles. So a group role is a set of behaviors a group member is expected to perform because their position in the group. So managers need to clearly describe what is expected of each group member and give them a role to play. Taking initiative to modify an assigned role by taking an extra responsibility, that's role making. And then there's 2 major types of roles: task-oriented roles performed by group members to make sure a task gets done, and maintenance role to ensure that team members have a good relationship. Stages of group development. This is classic research. It is been used for like 30 years. I remember studying this when I was in university a long time ago. But it still holds to be true. So there's 5 stages to developing a group. And the first one is forming. Members get to know each other. They reach a common understanding of the goals and behaviors. Once they've gone through this forming stage, members experience conflict and disagreements in the direction and leadership. There's a little bit of a power struggle in the forming stage. Once they've gone through that, they go to a norming stage. Interpersonal conflicts are resolved. They close ties, and the team cohesiveness begins to develop. Then, and only then, they begin to perform. The real work gets accomplished, and then adjourning is the final one when all the work is done and the group is disabled. And this kind of like a task force. You get together, you complete the task. Once that is done, then you say, thank you very much. It's been great working with all of you. On to the next task. Here's just a diagram of those 5 stages, right? You start with norming, storming, forming, performing, and then finally adjourning. So what are group norms? Group norms are shared guidelines and rules for behavior that members follow. Group members conform to the norms for 3 reasons. They want to obtain rewards and avoid punishments. They want to imitate a group member they like or respect, and they have internalized the norm and believe that it is the way to behave. Conformity and defiance to the group norm. So defiance is from group norms can increase performance in an organization. So how does it do that? That's when team members deliberately challenge aspects of standards, and it really creates creativity and innovation, right? Where they're like, we've always done it this way, but maybe we should do it a little bit differently this time. And there's a right balance between conformity and defiance, right? Where you don't want the group necessarily conforming to all of the norms that you normally have, but you also want them to be able to deliberately challenge some aspects of it to create some new ideas. Okay, so here's the balance, right? The balance between conformity and deviance, right? Deviating from what the norm is. So you have low conformity on one side And if you have low conformity, there's too much lack conformity, results in low performance because groups cannot control members. And on the other side, too much conformity means that the performance of the group is not necessarily ideal either. You want a moderate in the middle, that's the highest group performance, where you're going to deviate for some of the norms but then follow others. It's a balance between let's stay established, let's make sure that the project gets done, but maybe add some creative aspects to the task force or group that you're a part of. So what is group cohesiveness? It's the degree to which members are attracted or loyal to their team. And there's 4 determinants of group cohesiveness. One is the size that we talked about, small to medium. Really 2 to 15 members is the best size. Are they being effectively managed? Diverse groups are more creative. We've talked about that. Group identity and healthy competition, encouraging group members to develop their own identities and engage in healthy competition. And success, as group members become more successful, they become increasingly attractive to their members. So to increase cohesiveness, you need those 4 elements: the size, effectiveness, the identity, and the success. Determinants of cohesiveness and group cohesiveness. We just went through all of these: the group size, the management, the identity, and the success leads to more cohesiveness. And on the other side, increased level of participation, increased levels of conformity to group norms, and an increased emphasis on group goals and accomplishments. That's why cohesiveness is so key when you have a group working well. And you've experienced this. You've probably worked in groups at work or at school that work really well, and all the cylinders are firing and it feels like a great experience. And on the other hand, I'm sure you've worked in jobs or a group where it does not work well, it is not cohesive, and the performance suffers as a result. So group decision making. So groupthink is a pattern of faulty decision making that occurs when members strive for agreement at the expense of accuracy. And so that is when you just go along with what the group says because you're more interested in reaching an agreement and preventing any type of argument or being unpopular within the group. So you just go along with it. And the danger is that maybe you're going down the wrong path. Maybe you are making the wrong decision, but you're more inclined to agree with everyone than to be right. So here are some symptoms of groupthink: illusion of invulnerability, assumption of morality, irrationalized resistance, peer pressure, which everyone's gone through, minimized doubts, and illusion of unanimity, right? If someone does not speak, it's assumed that they agree with the group, that a silence becomes viewed as a yes. So these are all symptoms of a group thing. So you have to be aware as a manager to watch out for these symptoms, because groupthink is not something that we should be striving towards. We should be striving towards respectful disagreement, right? I hear what you say, but I respectfully disagree because there may be a better way to get it done. Improving group decision making, being the devil's advocate, and that's being critical and offering an alternative to what the group is deciding, right? Let me play the devil's advocate, and for the sake of argument, let me look at the other side, right? You're able to present a chosen alternative, critique alternatives, and then reassess if the initial idea was good, right? Let me play the devil's advocate. Maybe we could do it this way. And then the group decides, should we accept it, modify it, or maybe reject it? Maybe we are doing everything properly, but it's important to bring up some ways that you might do it differently. And this is called being the devil's advocate. So promoting group creativity. So here are 3 effective group decision-making techniques. The first one is brainstorming. So that's problem solving in which individuals meet face-to-face to generate and debate a wide range of alternatives. Production blocking, loss of productivity in brainstorming sessions due to unstructured nature of brainstorming. So yes, it can be, there's a negative consequence there. Nominal group technique, decision-making in which the group members write down solutions and read suggestions and discuss them and rank them. That's a great way to do it. And then Delphi technique is a decision making in which group members do not meet face to face but respond in writing to pose questions. And that way, the loudest person in the group isn't necessarily heard all the time. Maybe it's the quiet introvert that has the best idea. And so it's effective in that type of environment because you write down your ideas instead of speaking out loud. Managing groups and teams for high performance. Managers who want high performing teams need to motivate groups to achieve organizational goals, reduce social loafing, and we've all seen this, and that's the tendency of an individual to put forth less effort in a group because they're relying on the group to do all the work, and then help groups manage conflicts effectively. 3 ways to reduce social loafing. Okay, making individual contributions to group identifiable when possible, right? You're going to do this part. Emphasizing the value of contributions of individual members and keeping group size to an appropriate size or appropriate level, right? So all these 3 techniques will reduce social loafing. Helping groups manage conflict effectively. So task-related conflict is when members of groups perceive a problem or have disagreement about the nature of a task. Relationship conflicts are when groups perceive each other's attitude as a problem. Organizational conflict is discord that arise when goals, interests, and values of different individuals or groups are incompatible. Here's some sources of conflict: status inconsistencies, scarce resources, overlapping authority, task interdependence, right? All of these things lead to it. Incompatible goals and time horizons, and incompatible evaluation or reward systems. All of those things can lead to the dreaded organizational conflict. Conflict resolution. So here are 5 conflict resolution techniques. Avoiding, withdrawing from the conflict. Competing, satisfying one's own interests without regard of the interests of other party. These are 5 conflict handling behaviors. Compromising, parties willing to engage in a give and take exchange to make consensus. Accommodating, pleasing the other party by putting your interests ahead of the other party. And collaborating, resolve differences in a way that makes both parties better off, creating a win-win situation. So dimensions of conflict handling behaviors. Here we have assertiveness and cooperativeness on the axes, and in the middle is compromising, right? So we want to be in the middle, so it takes a certain level of being assertive and a certain level of cooperating to get to that compromise. You don't want to be too cooperative and you don't want to be too assertive, or you get into a situation where you're competing or avoiding or just accommodating the other person. So it is the happy medium between assertiveness and cooperativeness that you want to strike, the balance that you want to strike within groups. Okay, here's a summary and review. A group is 2 or more people who interact with each other to reach certain goals and to meet certain needs. And a team, on the other hand, is a group of members who intensely work with each other to achieve a specific goal or objective, and usually with a specific timeline in place. Groups and teams can contribute to organizational effectiveness by enhancing performance, increasing responsiveness to customers, increasing innovation, and being a source of motivation to their members. Formal groups are groups that managers establish to achieve organizational goals. They include cross-functional teams, cross-cultural teams, top management teams, research and development, departments, task force, self-managed teams, and virtual teams. And on the other hand, you have these informal groups that employees form in order to achieve their own goals, right? Friendships, interest groups, those are more informal groups. Group dynamics. Key elements of group dynamics are group size, the roles, group development, group norms, and group cohesiveness. We went over the 5 stages of development that many groups have to pass through: the forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning stage. And then group norms are shared rules of behavior that most group members follow. And group cohesiveness is the attractiveness of group members. Finally, decision making. Managers must be aware of the perils of groupthink. Members can minimize groupthink by playing the devil's advocate and then foster creativity and innovation to improving decision making by using these three techniques: brainstorming, the nominal technique, and the Delphi technique. Managing groups for high performance. To make sure a group or a team is performing high levels, managers need to motivate them towards achieving the organizational goals and reducing social loafing and conflict. And managers can motivate groups and teams to work towards achievement by making sure members personally personally benefit when the group or team performs at a high level. And that is a very quick overview of managing teams. I would encourage you to read the chapter in your textbook, to take the quiz, to make sure you understand the content that we went through. And as always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. Have yourself a great rest of the day.